The roads that have been snow covered with those jackknife tractor trailers, and essentially anywhere across the central southern sections of the province will be dealing with that. Highway 1, Highway 2, the Yellowhead, especially as we head up into central sections of Saskatchewan. And speaking of Saskatchewan, that is essentially where we find Jenny Hagan at Lost in SK right now. We'll touch back with Jenny now to find out exactly. So Jenny, where in exactly in Saskatchewan are you? And tell us how things are looking right now and how they compare to the last few hours.
I am in Kindersley, Saskatchewan, about an hour from the Alberta border. This morning, the drive-in was already the conditions were deteriorating quickly. We saw these heavy band of snow move in just south. Traffic was moving around 60 kilometers an hour on the trip in, even with the plow that was just kind of ahead of us. They were struggling to even keep the slush cleared off the highways. So travel conditions are definitely deteriorating quickly. If anybody needs to be out there traveling, they're going to want to make some extra time today.
Well, thank you so much for that, Jenny. I want you to stay safe out there, and we'll check back in with you in just a bit. But yeah, Jenny was mentioning that she's just about an hour from the border with Alberta, and essentially that's where we are seeing most of the snowfall for us right now. But as we progress throughout the day today, we'll continue to see that snow progress its way toward the east into Saskatchewan. There we can see just around Kindersley there. I'll zoom into where Jenny is currently located. She is definitely into that snowfall that will continue to fill in throughout this morning and into the afternoon. Now, we have been talking about the roads across the region, and certainly many of the highways will continue to be impacted and affected by this snowfall. Now, while the winds are expected to gust anywhere between, say, 40 to 60 kilometers per hour out of the north and northeast for us in through Alberta, that's just enough to create some hazardous conditions on the roads with regard to blowing snow and maybe a little bit of drifting snow as well. So you'll see some of the routes that will be affected throughout the day today, and essentially across central and southern sections, Highway 2, Highway 3, Highway 7, that's in Alberta. And then we skip across now into Saskatchewan, even Highway 1 and Highway 16, especially as you head areas from Oyen to Saskatoon to the north, extending up toward Prince Albert. Anyone doing any extensive travel today across Alberta and into BC, into Saskatchewan rather, will be driving with that snow. So extra patience will be needed on the roads. And, you know, Matt will head out into the newsroom where, Matt, you've been searching social media. You've been checking up on the roads with 511. Any updates for us now?
Yeah, well, we're going to check on, in just a moment, the situation at the Calgary airport, where we are seeing online on their website notifying of quite a percentage of flights being delayed, some very delayed leaving, which we can assume has quite a bit to do with the inclement weather conditions. Now, I want to head back to Twitter, just a refresher. The scene in Calgary at 6:20. We thank Jason Hampton for sharing this video of the snow on the road. So also getting updates from Calgary Transit, warning many riders to, hey, be careful on a day like today. Obviously, delays are something we're talking about, but slips and falls, something we want to keep top of mind as well. Now, I mentioned the Calgary airport. This on the YYC airport website. You can see on the left there that bar graph with departures, over 50% as of the latest update at 9:22 a.m. Leaving late, and you see that thin red line for a number of flights which are very late. So that's some of the impacts. Back to the highways. We've talked quite a bit about Alberta. We see the latest tweet from 511 Alberta, those highway updates. So north of Sherwood Park Freeway, we do have an east leg of the Anthony Henday Drive. Seeing some issues there. Here's a look at some of the live cameras. This in Calgary, you can see the drive, a lot of brake lights there. You can assume that some of those snowy conditions on Deerfoot Trail making for some difficult travel conditions. And we'll check on Banff once again. We have our webcams in that particular part of Alberta. Lots of snow on the ground, and we will continue to monitor the driving situation because that has been a big impact we've been trying to highlight this morning, Nadine, and obviously Jenny experiencing that in Saskatchewan as well, some very compromised highway driving conditions.
Yes, certainly. So thank you so much, Matt. Let's head on out to Jenny Hagan at Lost in SK. Jenny, looks like your camera is moving a bit. Is the wind picking up?
Yeah, the wind is starting to pick up. You can see the flags in behind me. They're starting to really fly out. I'm right now at the intersections of highways 21 and 7. Traffic is moving along for the morning commute, but very slowly. Seeing some semis parked in and along the service road down Highway 7. So you can just take a look around. Snowfall is really like accumulating up. We've got a few centimeters of it. It's light and fluffy right now, but we got that layer of ice underneath of all that snow. So it is slick underneath of this fluffy snow that's coming down now. Once that wind picks up, we're probably going to see this fluffy snow start getting thrown around. So that's going to reduce your visibility out there, especially on those roadways.
Yeah, Jenny, I was observing behind you as well. There is a flag there in the background, and I can definitely see it swaying a lot in the breeze. Tell me, you mentioned conditions on the roadways. From your perspective as a chaser, because you're always out in so many different types of conditions, on the roads and in a snowstorm, what is really your biggest challenge being out there chasing snowstorms?
Usually the biggest challenge of this is your visibility, because as those winds pick up and it throws that snow, you're going to be losing sight of the roadway and your shoulders. So you really need to be aware of your surroundings. The other thing, especially with this kind of system where we had that freezing rain move in ahead of the system, is that slick surface underneath that drivers might not necessarily know exactly how slippery it is out there.
And as an experienced storm chaser, Jenny, I want to just ask you this one more question. As an experienced storm chaser in these kinds of conditions, what is your number one tip for drivers?
My number one tip is when it gets like this, probably stay home if you don't have to be out there. But definitely have your winter tires on, a winter safety kit. Carry shovels. I carry a huge amount of safety gear when I'm out chasing these things. Tow ropes. Gravel and sand to be able to get traction if anything happens, and a shovel to be able to dig myself out. So just make sure you have that winter safety kit with you if you have to be out on those roadways.
Well, that is definitely some good advice there, Jenny, from an experienced storm chaser. We'll check back in with Jenny in just a bit. But yeah, a couple of the things she was mentioning. She mentioned that freezing rain. She mentioned the reduced visibility. And we see there that the winds are beginning to pick up. We'll take a look here. This is some of the peak wind gusts that we have been experiencing in and around Alberta. And the stronger winds for today will be in Alberta. But as the system progresses eastward, they will gradually be shifting into Saskatchewan. So we will be seeing those winds increase through Saskatchewan and where Jenny is right now. So we've been seeing gusts up to about, say, 40 plus kilometers per hour. And they'll continue to be on the breezy side for us throughout the day today. And you notice there anywhere extending down from Edmonton, down the QE2 into what Calgary, Claresholm and Prairies to the east. As the low progresses eastward through this evening, we'll continue to see those winds on the breezy side. Now, not extremely windy by, a windstorm standard, but certainly when you get that light fluffy snow, as in some instances we can have compromised conditions on the roads with blowing snow and reduced visibility and drifting snow. And you hear us talk about blowing snow so often. What exactly is it? Of course, you being out there, you'll know that snow just gets lofted into the air by the wind, and it really just reduces your visibility. You're not able to see very far in front of you. A little bit different from drifting snow, which is a little lower to the ground. And drifting snow, of course, can affect, traction on the roadways. So this is certainly going to be a challenge for many drivers throughout the day today. And this snow will continue to push from Alberta into Saskatchewan. We still do have all of today to get through with that snowfall. Anywhere along the QE2 mat, we are looking at additional accumulations for us in that range of about 5, 10, maybe even 15 centimeters of snowfall, but there is still a lot more to come for areas to the east, Matt.
Yeah, no doubt. And in just a moment, let's take a look at some of those latest updates on highways. But we do have some new visuals from social media that we have found. We'll get right to that here. Pull this up on Twitter. This video showing just what Calgary transit riders are in for this morning. Not a very pretty sight. And we expect, yes, that snow is continuing to come down. Now, another new video here. This from a gentleman who says, "Good morning from Planet Hoth," which I believe is a Star Wars reference. And You can see that accumulating snow, not very good looking weather conditions there. So this is what's all been contributing to road conditions like this. So we'll show Jason's video once again. This was at 6:20 this morning local time in Calgary. No surprise that we're having some difficulties with the kind of the pace of that morning commute tonight. Those roads look exceptionally slippery. Now let's take a look quickly at the Saskatchewan Highway Hotline. Now everywhere in yellow, you can see kind of Saskatoon at the top right of your screen. That's where those winter driving conditions are in effect. Now this area in white where Jenny is reporting from this morning, we'll just let this kind of load up here. Maybe I'll zoom back out. Well, you do see in the Kindersley area, east and west of that city, in white on the highway hotline, that's where travel not recommended. So certainly in that central Saskatchewan area, we could expect to see a lot more areas in that travel not recommended, possibly even some road closures as the day goes on. Here's a look at the highway hotline Twitter page where there's a reminder right off the top. Hey, check the highway hotline if you are planning a drive today. If you must be on the road, check those driving conditions and make sure that it is safe to do so, or if your routes are open. Now, heading back to Alberta, we can see some of the latest updates. Let me just hit refresh here so we can see if anything new has poured in. We've been seeing some updates on certain situations like those jackknife trailers. So we have from 14 minutes ago, the southbound and northbound QE2 does remain closed. So like Nadine was just talking about, an area where we've been seeing quite a bit of snowfall, that is still expected to be a factor. So Saskatchewan starting to get a taste of some of those winter driving conditions, some areas where travel not recommended. But as it stands right now, just a small part of Saskatchewan with travel not recommended. Back to our webcams here. We'll start in Banff where we can really get a sense of the snow on the ground, quite a lot there. And check into Calgary, where we've talked about the issues with public transit, delays at the airport. We'll touch a bit more on those airport delays in a moment. But here's a look at all the brake lights on Deerfoot Trail. You see the northeast and southeast facing cameras. Definitely some challenges for this morning commute. So that is our latest update on some of the impacts. Of course, we are looking at a bit of wet snow, it appears, for parts of Saskatchewan. So I don't know, Nadine, maybe some concerns for power outages. I know in Alberta it does look like perhaps more of a drier, fluffier snow, maybe causing concerns for reducing visibility with those strong winds blowing that snow. So we'll stay on top of the road conditions and anything else that might pop up here on Twitter.
Yes, thank you so much, Matt. Yeah, you were mentioning, a bit of wet snow in some instances. This system really is a large chunk of Alberta and then extending into north central Saskatchewan. Just to talk a little bit about, see the area here where we do have that pink, so that's essentially the area in pink here in through, say, central Saskatchewan, and then again coming through the extreme southeast pocket of Alberta. We have a little bit of warmth coming in with this low pressure system, so we may see, or we will see rather, snowfall accumulations reduced in this area because of the higher water content and that bit of freezing rain coming in. But certainly to areas farther to the west and to the north, that's where we are continuing to see perhaps the accumulations that will be a little bit heavier, or a lot heavier for us, I should say, over the next few hours. And at this point in time, really, Alberta is the focus of the bulk of that snowfall for us as it continues to progress to the east. Now, we did have one question coming in for us on social media, someone wondering if British Columbia would be affected by this system. And the short answer to that is no. As a matter of fact, you can see here as I show you the radar imagery, it's just the extreme southeast pocket of British Columbia, just getting into some of that snowfall. But this is really an Alberta through Saskatchewan and eventually into northern Manitoba story. British Columbia, especially for coastal areas, there was a little bit of cloud cover and precip early through the morning, but it is going to be a nice day for the most part across the lower mainland. In terms of this storm, this is a prairie storm system, and the accumulations could be quite significant for us. I'll show you here just a zoomed in version for Alberta of how much snowfall we are looking at additional for the region. Now, this is additional because, of course, this snow in Alberta started last evening. So anywhere along the QE2, looking at an additional 5, 10, maybe even 15 centimeters of snowfall. But then you'll see areas well east of the QE2 toward the border with Saskatchewan. That's where we still do have some more accumulations headed our way, 15 to 25 centimeters of snowfall. And you see there up through, say, north and west of Saskatoon to Prince Albert. That's where we are looking at some heavier snowfall totals. Now, we are in Saskatchewan with this storm as well. Jenny Hagan at Lost in SK is on the ground there. Jenny, you are in Kindersley, and you were mentioning before that there was a little bit of freezing rain, and the wind is starting to pick up now, Jenny.
Yes, you can see the flags really starting to flap here now. Traffic is moving around the area, even though, travel is not recommended. And that is kind of due to the, slush buildup. You can even see on the headlights here on how much ice is built up on that. And that's what's underneath of this snow. We're getting back and forth between that light, heavy, big flakes to this slushy ice that's coming down. So it's kind of going back and forth, so that slush will probably continue to accumulate underneath this snowfall as the day goes on. And roadways are definitely going to be slick, so you need to adjust your travel accordingly to that. But traffic is moving along, heading on their morning commute, and the plows have been up and down these highways quite frequently in this last little while.
Well, thank you so much, Jenny. Stay safe out there. We'll check back in with you. We'll show you the radar imagery here to give you a perspective of what Jenny was talking about with the ice buildup. And you'll see that pink area there. You can see a bit of it across extreme southeast Alberta into southwest Saskatchewan. And then again, right around Highway 7 near Kindersley, where Jenny is currently located. That pink is the freezing rain that started to come down before the snow started accumulating where Jenny is. And like Jenny was saying, this can be quite dangerous on the roadways because you can't see the ice that is underneath and you have no grip on the roadways. So you definitely have to, pay particular attention to conditions on the roads. And like Jenny was saying, if you don't have to travel for today, it's always best to, avoid travel because of the conditions on the roadways right now. And that is expected to deteriorate, especially through eastern Alberta and through western Saskatchewan or north central Saskatchewan throughout the day today. And you'll see many of the roadways already being affected in Alberta. 2, 3, 7, Highway 1 as well down toward the south. We'll start to see that snow filling in. And then as we look toward 1 and 16 for us pushing into central Saskatchewan throughout the day today, that's where we'll continue to follow the snowfall as it progresses as we head throughout the day today with that snowfall accumulation. Matt, let's check back in with you to see any updates on the roads, how drivers are faring, what's happening with 511.
Yeah, certainly, Nadine. Certainly continuing with the picture we've been painting thus far, which is a number of highways, particularly in Alberta, are dealing with those very wintry, slippery conditions. And like we mentioned, we've been hearing some of our meteorologists discussing here at the office this morning. That snow in Alberta, a lot of that potentially has that lighter quality to it and that risk of blowing snow and reduced visibility. Here is a look at 511 Alberta. You can see zooming in on Edmonton, a number of roads west, east, and south of the city with the listing of covered in snow and ice. And you can even, I'll zoom in just so you get a sense, we even have little icons for all the plows that are out around Alberta. And you see heading east of Edmonton, some tricky driving conditions there, even a closure on Highway 16 a bit east of Edmonton, you see in solid red. So again, just a reminder to head to those websites and resources you have to plan your drive, because we are getting those updated bits of information. So before we check on Saskatchewan highways once more, let's take a look. Not a ton new from the 511 Alberta Twitter account. Still that update, the northbound Anthony Henday Drive, east leg north of Sherwood Park. It's driving with caution is urged in that stretch. But going back to Saskatchewan, we can see here just kind of southwest of Saskatoon, the Kindersley area, a number of highways still under the areas where travel not recommended. Everywhere else in yellow is where those winter driving conditions are being reported. So heading kind of northeast of Saskatoon here, lots of areas in yellow, as you can see. Now, when we head more so to southeast Saskatchewan, Regina, heading down to Estevan, really not as much there because that's that sort of track of the snow kind of missing that southeast corner, really kind of heading through central Saskatchewan into northern Manitoba later on in the day. Some of the latest pictures we've been getting on Twitter, this from Jordan Caruthers at Extreme Storm JC on Twitter, saying lots of fresh snow here at DeChambeau Lake, Saskatchewan this morning. And yes, more on the way. And one more to show you this, yes, parts of Alberta looking like Planet Hoth with all that snow. Taking a look at our live cameras here, we do have some of that footage for you. Let me just pull that up. This in Banff, going back, taking a look at those cameras. As you can see, many cars dealing with lots of snow. Drivers obviously having a tough time in the Banff area. Real quick, Calgary's cameras as well. Still a difficult looking morning commute. So Nadine and Jenny, certainly that seems to be what we've been looking at this morning, and I'll continue to look for any updates for us on the show here.
Well, thank you so much, Matt. You're just coming up to 8 o'clock now for us in Alberta, and perhaps drivers are wondering, anyone tuning in and wondering, you know, how long is the snow going to last? Because it's been snowing since yesterday evening. Well, we'll time this out for you, and we'll pick it up here at about 10 o'clock Mountain Time for us. And you'll see the darker blues for us across southern and southeastern Alberta. That's where we are seeing some of the heavier intensity snowfall continuing through mid to late morning for us. At the same time, though, still expected to be snowing for us along the QE2 back toward the foothills, but certainly the focus moving forward will be for the more intense snowfall to be making its way eastward toward the border with Saskatchewan for us. So as we head through the afternoon, while things will begin to ease for us across, say, the QE2 and westward and extreme southern Alberta, we'll still be looking at the focus of that snowfall taking us through the late afternoon and into the evening here through the border with central Saskatchewan, central Alberta. So, of course, travel will continue to be quite treacherous as we head through the afternoon and evening for us, pushing up into Saskatchewan. So anywhere north of Saskatoon toward the PA region, we're looking at those accumulations to be quite significant for us. But again, anyone heading out momentarily, you'll have to pack your patience. If you don't have to be on the roads and you can perhaps put off your trip until maybe tomorrow, for instance, that might be a good idea. But drive carefully. Jenny was giving us some tips on packing safety equipment in our cars if we have to find ourselves out on the roadways, because you'll see there as we continue through today, it's not until this evening or tonight when we see that snowfall ending off for us in through Alberta, but still an ongoing issue for central Saskatchewan. And then eventually, of course, this will be moving into northern sections of Manitoba. But just to give you an idea of the snowfall accumulations for us, so we showed you earlier how much we are expecting still to come in Alberta, where it's been ongoing since last evening. It's just getting going for us in through, say, central northern Saskatchewan for us. And we could be looking at anywhere, say, north of Saskatoon toward the PA region, 20 to 30 centimeters of snowfall. But then down towards Saskatoon, we could be seeing 5, 10, 15 centimeters of snowfall. But as we head out now to Jenny Hagan in Kindersley, the snowfall really is just one factor, Jenny, because, of course, you were talking about that layer of ice and that freezing rain that's making things even more dangerous on the road.